Welcome to Pull a Pin Already, a place where average veterans come to share their opinions about the world we live in. We can't guarantee you're going to like our opinions.
But we're going to love giving them to you.
I'm Jim.
And I am Yo Mama Bin Laden.
Let's pull a pin. Well, welcome, Mr. Nodden. Or should I call you Yo Mama? Yo Mama?
Yes.
I don't know.
Yes.
Well, anyways, welcome back. Always a pleasure to have you here as usual. Welcome to all our viewers, all three of you. Shout out to Johnny and Christina. I haven't seen you in a while.
What's up,
And
Johnny?
all the other
Christina?
All the other haters in our BitChute channel.
They're probably all Navy guys.
Well, dude, this episode here, this war room episode here is gonna probably be right down their alley. We'll probably have a whole bunch of comments. So this is a war room episode where we normally do. This one's gonna be a little bit different, not just because of our special guest here, but because these headlines are all going to be related to one topic, and everybody can probably assume they can know what that topic is. It's the mess going on overseas right now. But we can say we have
which mess going on overseas. There's
good point. Yes. Well, the biggest mess as of late. I hear
the most recent mess.
Yes. The most recent red, and I'm not talking about what's in Biden's pants. So
that one's been there since the 70s.
Yeah, but either way, we're going to get into these headlines, and we're going to start off, and it'll just get us right into it. So without further ado, or whatever else I can say, because this is like an awkward show that I'm not normal flow. Because you know what happens? Nate is here to help me normally, but Nate's on a vacation again. And Nate does a lot of the transitions. So now I got to stall a little bit so I can get to the transitions. But anyway, without further ado, here's our first headline. White House. At least 11 Americans confirmed killed in Hamas terror attacks. Now, I got to tell you, I got a bunch of headlines related to this, but you can talk about whatever you want about this because we'll get to it all.
Well, for starters, I'm surprised that the PC police still allow us to call it the White House. I seriously, I'm surprised that they haven't made us change that yet.
That did come up early on. You know that, right? Do you remember? There was a stink about that. They wanted to call it the People's House or something. Yeah, you don't remember that? I think it was when Trump was in office, of course.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, he's not white either. They should have called it the Cheeto House.
Right. Or the almost White House.
The Sunless Tanner House.
Right. Got it.
Yeah. But yeah, 11 Americans killed so far. And so from what I was reading, beyond that, they actually think that it's more, but it's 11 confirmed. And, you can't help but, kind of draw the parallels between, what's going on in the world right now and the two world wars, right? I mean, let's just go ahead and call it what it is. I mean, World War One, we essentially got into that because, German submarines were sinking everybody's ships, and, Americans get around, man. Like, we're on everybody else's boats too. So, the Germans were inadvertently killing Americans by sinking these boats. And, I mean, that's not what ultimately got us in the war, but that's what built a lot of the tensions leading up to what eventually did get us into the war. So,
Well, are you surprised, first of all, that obviously Americans are everywhere, right? So I don't know where the bulk of these came from, because if following the news was hard, and I have to tell you, I stopped watching the news because the rage that was building within me, like, I don't care what side you're on. I don't care if you hate Israel or hate Hamas. The videos I was watching of the behavior of Hamas is appalling. Like, I don't even, like, people will try to say, like, oh, America's done bad things. Like, yeah, we dropped a bomb on a whole dang city. Like, I get that. But that's instantaneous. You know what I mean? Even the rockets doesn't bother me so much. It's the the women, the children, the torture, the rape, I mean, that is the stuff of animals. That is stuff animals, and I don't care what side of the fence you're on. That's behavior that you should no one should tolerate.
Well, yeah, and I completely agree with that. But yeah, you know me, like I'm a huge history dork, right? Like I love going, oh, okay, well this reminds me of yada yada yada. Okay, but for the record, everybody talks about this this battle in Palestine, this battle on the Gaza Strip has been going on for millennia, and blah 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 blah. No, it hasn't. Israel as a state, as we know it today, has only existed a little over 100 years, right? So, again, we go back to our World War One again, and prior to World War One, that whole area of what we call the Middle East today was the Ottoman Empire, right? And so, the vast majority of those countries over there, you know, owe their existence to the English and French busting up the Ottoman Empire and divvying it up into all those little countries. And they decided when they were doing that the Jewish people needed a place, and so they split that little area there off because Israel's not that big. Um, I mean, they're arguing over an area that's the size of Vermont.
And Israel
Uh,
gave up some land.
not no, not no,
No.
no. So the original deal was that it was all supposed to be Israel, but then the Palestinians wanted their own Palestinian state. And so the UN concession was that Israel got everything outside of Gaza and outside of the West Bank. And then the city of Jerusalem wasn't supposed to belong to anybody. That was supposed to be an international city because it was so important to so many different religions.
Right.
Um, but then a lot of the Arab countries in the area didn't like the presence of a Jewish state in their backyard, so they attacked them, and Israel just beat the shit out of all of them. And in doing so, they occupied a large part of the West Bank. They occupied a large part of Gaza. They occupied a large part of Egypt, believe it or not. Um, and then, of course, they occupied the city of Jerusalem. And so, again, this other concession, again, they're making deals and they're giving stuff back, but they're giving stuff back in smaller pieces, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
like, if they had 85% of the area, right, then at the height of their ass kicking, they swell out to say 135%, right? Because they take things beyond the original borders. And then when they shrink back down, they don't go all the way back down to 85%, right? Like they go to like 92%. So they still have more than where they started with, if that makes any sense. And so
Right.
it's just, and it's been this lather, rinse, repeat sort of thing for Israel. And, but each one of these interactions begins with someone else being the aggressor. And then
Right. To the
Israel,
victor goes the spoils, though, right?
well, yeah, I mean, that was the way the world worked a long time ago, but we don't seem to think that anymore. Um, because if you go by that premise, then, the United States should own,
Well, right. But we
half
don't no
of
longer have an
Mexico,
interest.
half of Europe,
But we don't have an
half
interest
the Middle
anymore. We
East.
we can't control all those areas. We try to have a presence, right?
Yeah.
Which is even something we could debate later on whether the U.S. should even be doing that crap, right? That's a whole nother topic. I mean, I guess I appreciate the history lessons. I guess my problem is I don't care about the history. War is war, right? I don't care
Yes,
who's right and who's wrong in this scenario.
well, I mean, the war is war thing is yes, but I mean, if you don't understand people's motives and why they're doing what they're doing, right? I mean, hostilities don't just blossom out of nowhere, right?
Well,
Like
right, but let's bring this.
Palestinians hate Israelis, Israelis hate Palestinians, or whatever. I'm not putting words in anybody's mouth. I'm just saying,
Right.
hypothetically, right? Like, those feelings of animosity don't just sprout out of nowhere, right? The Palestinians wanted an independent Palestinian state way back when they were part of the Ottoman Empire, and they couldn't get it. And so, they saw the toppling of the Ottomans as an opportunity for them to have their own state, just to get kind of shitted out of it again. Now, should that make the people, 110 years, whatever it is, later, should they still be pissed off about that? I don't know. I mean, you'd have to ask a Palestinian.
Well,
Um,
again, like I say, I say it's the same as slavery in this country. You can hold a grudge you want. You can be 100% correct. I don't have a problem with you being correct. And yes, I understand the importance of knowing the history. So if we're going to sit in a trial and judge people on who was right or wrong, that's great. But what I'm saying is we were in the military. When did they ever tell you to shoot somebody in the head or cut their throat and torture them and rape them? When did they ever teach that? Even when we have our own soldiers going overseas.
Uh, well, they never taught me to torture anybody, and they never taught me to rape anybody. But I mean, I took bayonet classes. Did you not take bayonet
Yeah, but what
classes?
is the purpose of it, though? What is the purpose of it?
I
This
mean,
is something I've talked about before. We don't go over there to kill people. That's not what we do. That's the
no.
result of what happens when we are threatened with our use of force.
Well, right. Okay. So what you're talking about then is the difference between, um, a conditional surrender versus
Correct.
an unconditional surrender, right? So, like,
Yes.
when you go out on a battlefield, your your
Objective.
your objective is not to kill people. Your
Right.
objective is to cause the enemy to lose the will to fight.
Yes.
Now, some people will tell you that whatever you can do that will cause the enemy to lose their will to fight is justifiable means to an end. So if you think that raping and torturing civilians is going to make the opposing side lose their will to fight, I mean, I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying that there's a perspective there that's not entirely invalid.
Sure, and I will say that the U.S. probably does things, but most American citizens don't really know what's really happening.
No.
Most people don't know the waterboarding was just a new thing, that people saw, but that stuff's been going on for years, but we don't see that.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah. It's like, you just found out about it.
right, so it's hard to compare, the U.S. because we have rules of engagement. There's rules in war. There's all kinds of stuff that we try to hold the moral ground on. So even if we do bad things, the chances of all of America agreeing with it is very slim. These people are out in the public televising that if you do anything, we're going to start killing hostages. Like they're literally doing terroristic things, barbaric behaviors on behalf of their country, if you want to call it that. So, like, my problem is this: if America sees that we're going to war, like we have people protesting simply just going to war. You know what I mean? Where are the people in this place where Hamas is running protesting? Where are they saying this is wrong? So if they're not saying it's wrong, then they're not really civilians to me. They're endorsing it. So in rules of war, there's civilian casualties, right? There's always civilian casualties in all things. You don't target them though, right? Like look at the
Well,
predicament Israel's in.
I mean, we say we don't target civilians. I mean, that's you talk about our whole moral high ground, but I mean, you know, again, this goes back to, how do you inflict enough damage on the opposing side to make them lose their will to fight? Well, if you've got a population of people that feel as though they don't have a dog in the fight, or the cost that they're giving up is beyond them, then the idea is, oh well, they're going to turn on their leadership, right? But you know,
Well, why not though? Like, wouldn't you do that? Like, if our country starts to collapse and go to places that might lead us to war, like, wouldn't you do that? Wouldn't you? I mean, isn't that how our country was formed? Like, we stood up and said, no, enough is enough. That's not what we stand for.
well, okay, we weren't having our entire civilian populations having the dog shit bombed out of them, right? Like that's never happened to the United States. But if you take a look at your history, look back at London during the Blitz in World War II, right? The Luftwaffe bombed the shit out of London. I mean, just relentlessly, day after day. It was like what 45 days straight or something like that. I can't remember. But you know what it did to the citizens of London? It pissed them off. It
Right.
didn't it didn't make them want to quit. It didn't make them, turn on Churchill. It made them say, "You know what? Fuck Germany. Bomb them, right? Bomb them
Exactly. They
more,
give it
right?"
right
Like,
back. Right.
but I mean, did it make them lose their will to fight? No, I don't think it did.
Well, that's what I'm
Um
saying. I'm saying I agree with you, the tactic or the idea to, and the will to fight. But I'm saying is there's limits. There's hard human limits. Cutting the heads off of children is not something in the warfare rule books anywhere. I
mm,
mean, it's
I mean,
nothing. You might have secret agencies doing stuff that we don't agree with, or most humankind doesn't agree with. Like even taking a life is a hard thing to do, but to look at a baby or take a woman and treat like some of the videos I saw, like to me that is beyond human behavior. That's psychotic. That's not war to me. You know what I mean? That's to me, that is crossing a line where I don't know what you're trying to do. Even if you're trying to break the will, it doesn't. To me, that makes me angry. I'm not even from Israel, but if they did that to people here, like remember when when they dragged that guy in Somalia, the
yeah.
pilot, that pissed me off. I would have volunteered in a minute to shoot. I don't care if they're civilian or not. You allow your people to do that. When have you seen that in America? Like we have it little, things in our little cities and things that struck, and all of a sudden that sparks outrage. You know what I mean? Like a drug addict gets, killed on the street, and all of a sudden we got riots everywhere.
I mean, look at some of the read up on some of the cases of lynchings in Jim Crow South.
Right,
Okay,
but you
like we're
understand,
not.
like that stuff we don't know about. I don't know about it. If I have to read up about it, I didn't see it. If I saw somebody right down the street
I
getting
mean, you
lynched,
didn't see it because it happened, in the 30s before
right.
cell phone videos.
But what I'm saying is, why
It's
is it gone? Why is it gone if it was such a good practice and nobody stood up? Why is it gone? It's not. It's not here because people finally stood up and said this is wrong. In fact, we had civil wars over crap like this. That's my point. So if an entire place is full of Hamas and nobody's standing up, then they endorse it. They believe in it. So if civilian casualties happen, I don't agree with it, but I'm sorry. You're supporting it, then you are now a military combatant.
I see. I mean, I'm not condoning any of this behavior. I mean, obviously, it's
No,
all
no, you don't have to.
grotesque,
I get
right?
it. Right.
I mean, but at the same time, I don't feel like you can just go, okay, because you're not doing anything. If you're not with us, you're against us, right? That's kind of the vibe I'm getting off of this, and I don't, I don't think that's quite right because I
No, I
mean,
don't. I don't believe that either. I understand what you're saying,
I because
but I'm saying it from Israel's perspective. Israel is saying you don't want to get bombed. Get the hell out of the school where the missiles came from because we're taking it out.
well,
That's Israel. That's what they're doing. They're not inhumane. They're not flying in drones and raping and killing children. But they
oh,
are going to,
they are killing children.
yeah, inadvertently because these
Yeah.
people aren't going to leave because they believe and want to support what they. Now, even if this is my home, like I always say this, dude. I always try to do this. Bring this into your yard. Say this was a feud with your town.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That
You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah.
How would you treat this if this was your town and your town was, I mean, at some point, all these issues, they're just on a big worldly scale. but they're all
Yeah,
still
but
issues in a
yeah,
personal
but
level.
I mean, but again, this is all this is all relative to your position, your perspective. I mean,
But I don't.
if
But see, that's the disconnect, though.
hang on. So if the guy that owned your house before you came in and just plopped a squat on your couch and was like, "Hey, I'm home," and you're like, "No, you're not. This is my house," and he says, "No, it's my house." Well, who's the invader? In your eyes, he is. In his eyes, you are. So I mean, it's
I
like
understand, but if he came in and raped my wife and killed my children, I don't care who he is. And my neighbor shouldn't either. My neighbor should get this disgusting, evil filth off the existence of this planet because he's evil, not because he's right or wrong. I don't care if he's right or wrong. If he came in to dispute it and we even had to go outside and fight over it, or we had to go to court and fight over it, that's okay. That's a
so. Are
battle.
you
That's a
referring
dispute.
to your neighbor literally, or are you? I mean, in the
Yes,
context
is bringing
of
it home. Yes,
Palestinian. Um,
yes,
but so are you referring to their literal neighbors? Like if they see their neighbor out doing things to bring
yes.
Palestinian presence, or are you referring to like, the
I'm saying,
Jordanians?
I'm saying, if you were in that place and you saw some guy drag some woman out of there, rape her, and you don't say or do anything about that, then you're part of the problem.
So,
You
so,
endorse it.
so you want these people to get mad at the fighters who are defending a cause that they themselves agree with?
Excellent. That's my point. They agree with it. So therefore, they're not civilian casualties. They just don't know how to fight.
Well, no. So there's a difference between a Palestinian living in Gaza who says, you know, I'm a Palestinian, I'm proud to be a Palestinian, and I don't want, an Israeli presence in my country. Um, you can have that opinion and not be a militant person, right?
Sure,
Like, you know,
sure, but you cannot say that it's okay for my neighbor to go rape them to get them out. If you do, you're not a human. That's inhumane, dude. That's just it's a horrible personal. Like if you want to drag the guy out, throw him across the fence, go for it.
I
Get
mean,
out
I'm
of our
just
town.
saying,
I'm saying, where's the
it's
line, dude? Where is the line? Where's the line that you'll look the other way? Like even some of the things America does, people look the other way. They sure do. Hell, we got a whole Democratic Party right now willing to look the other way on certain crimes and then go after you on another crime. This is my point, and this is my problem, even in our own country. Why are people not standing together against a common cause that is obviously extreme? It's extreme. The guys that
I'm,
broke down the fence, go for it. You want to rebel, break down the fence, start pitching tents in Israel's property, go for it. Then we could yell at Israel if they came back and did something inhumane to you. But you literally shot innocent people and murdered children and raped women and put it on TV. Where do you stop with that? How does that not piss off the average, common, normal sense person? Like, yes, it exists in history, and you know this, right? The barbaric, all that stuff. But that didn't make it right. And that's my point. We live in a society, a civilization today where if you're not condoning this behavior, you're supporting it. And I don't believe that. Like, I don't believe what you're saying is that, but at some point, you're going to be taking the fall. If my neighbor is selling crack and meth and I don't tell on him and the lab blows up and my house goes with it, it's my fault.
yeah, but you're inflicting your values on other people.
Yes, correct. Correct. And I'm telling you that anyone who shares a value of beheading children and raping women is just evil. I don't care if they believe it or not. They may not think it's evil, but I'm telling you, the civilized world should.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I think it's evil,
So
but
anyone
I
sitting
mean,
here supporting that and doing that to me, you got a problem. You can support Hamas and the Palestinians and what they've been through, and you can do that. But you must condemn that behavior because that's insane to me.
that's fair.
That's my point. Is I'm not here to defend Israel or condemn Hamas or any of that. I don't even know enough about them per se. Only what I'm told, and we all know we can't trust the government anyway, right? We can't trust half the things we
Facts.
hear anyway, right? So I'm not even picking a side, but I'm saying what I saw was enough to piss me off that I would personally go over there and annihilate everybody who was willing or culpable of that,
That's
because
fair.
that's not somebody making up saying Donald Trump's a Nazi racist, with no proof. They're videotaping literally what they've done, and it is inhumane. So you don't have a cause anymore because you're completely going about it the wrong way. No one's going to support you, but yet there are people supporting them.
Well, one could argue,
That's why we're here,
one,
right?
not me, not me,
Mhm.
but one could argue that they've spent the last, I don't know, 100 years trying to do things the right way and gotten, you know, not the
Okay,
results that they wanted.
right. So
So,
then
I
you
mean,
think it's time to cross that line. Now,
I
my point being is I don't care.
again, that's not me. I'm
Right. No,
just
I get it. I get it.
devil's
But I'm saying
advocate, right?
again, I don't care. What extent are you willing to do? Let's say bring it into your house. Your neighbor's been a jerk for all that. What extent are you? Are you willing to go over there and kill that man just because you don't like him? The dispute wasn't settled. He stole your crops out of your thing. Are you willing to go and take that man's life? Are you willing to go over and rape his wife and kill his children? Are
I
you
mean,
willing to
not
do
his
that?
wife and children, but if he borrows my lawnmower one more time and doesn't bring it back, there could
Yes.
be hell to pay.
And you're willing to go over and confront him. And if war breaks out, even between the two of you, that's the sacrifice. That's the consequences of war.
Yeah,
But you do not go after innocent people who have
because
no say in the world because you're pissed off you didn't get your way for 100 years.
I was raised in a Western world with Western values. Yes,
Okay,
that
right.
is beyond my threshold of tolerance.
Right. And even I'm saying right now, even me or Israel, nobody should go over to Hamas and just start raping their women and killing their children.
Oh yeah, no.
Nobody's saying to do that because we're not savages and barbarians like they are. That's my point. But if they go and bomb a school or hospital where they're shooting missiles from, and these people want to stay in it because they believe in the cause, sorry, I'm just sorry because I'm not going to let you do that to my
So
people, my family.
so the allegation is that they're shooting missiles from inside of schools.
Yes, that's what they do. They're hiding in these
Okay.
protective places so that Israel doesn't attack them because they know Israel takes the moral ground and won't go after the civilian population. These people are evil. And that's my point. So if your neighbor's been doing this, let's say your neighbor came into your house and raped your wife and killed your kids, and you want to go burn his house down, right? But he's got a wife and kids in there, and you call him up, say, you need to get the hell out of the house because I'm going to kill your husband, right? If you say that and they don't leave, what do you want me to do? Wait till
Well,
he comes over and does it again? Like,
I mean, like 60 something percent of Japanese industry during World War II that was fueling their war machine was taking place in the private residence
mm-hmm.
of the civilian population. But, that still doesn't protect America from taking slack for, you know, leveling Hiroshima.
Sure. Well, America tried to justify it with saving the lives they were saving. They tried to justify all the lives that could have been lost. And look, I'm not even going to sit here and support it. I'm not even going to pretend that that was a great thing to do.
Oh, I wholeheartedly support that.
Well, I'm not going to say I'm not going to fully support it because I don't know all the thoughts and stuff. I only know what they're telling me that went into it. So that's like a whole nother show if you want to dive deep into something like that. But my point being is if it's inhumane, it's inhumane. But even again, like I said, bombing an entire city, I would rather get bombed right now by Hamas or shot than be raped and tortured. That's
Yeah, yeah.
you understand that's a different level.
Well,
Even when we do it or when we hear about we doing it.
yeah, I completely agree with all the points that you're making, but you have to understand that you're talking about a graduated scale, right? Like there was a point in time, like you talk about beheading people, okay? So there was a point in time in human history where even, Western culture with all of its civilization and stuff, that beheading was a death that was reserved for the upper crusts of society, right?
Sure.
Everybody else that got put to death weren't worthy of that privilege. You're talking, being broken on the wheel or whatever, right? And then, during the French Revolution, which is, modern era stuff, right? The United States already existed during this point in time. And the guillotine, the mechanical head separating device, was considered the humane option.
Right. Sure,
You
because it
know,
was instant.
yeah.
It
So, I
wasn't
mean,
torture. Right. It wasn't like they did with, Jesus on the cross and back in the days the Romans did with hanging people, torturing them. Because that's what barbarians do. That's what people without conscience do. That's what they do. Even in our country, that's what abusive spouses do. That's what that's not the behavior that, and I'm not even one of those woke ass liberals, but that's not the behavior
you're
that,
not.
no, I'm not. You're my liberal buddy. Um, but that's not the behavior that we would consider to be, even if you're religious or not, that's just not the behavior of humankind.
Yeah, it's
I just
bad.
don't. I mean, you saw the video. I couldn't watch the videos, dude. I
I,
mean,
I haven't watched any of the videos. Like,
did,
I've read some of the news stories and stuff, but I'm not into that. Kind of murder porn sort of stuff
and
that
I'm not
just.
even, like I said, yeah,
Yeah, I know you're
it
not.
makes me
I know.
sick, and I turn it off. But there was a lady in there. Even you heard about this one, the German influencer. It was a
Mm.
German woman, and they showed a picture of her in the back of a pickup truck, naked, face down, but her legs were bent like a W. Clearly, she was dead, and like I assume she's dead. If not, she's in severe pain because her legs were bent, the op pointing towards her head, laying
Mm.
naked in the back of a pickup truck. Now, how is that showing Israel by killing a German citizen and torturing her? And like, how is that?
I mean, the I understand the concept of the taking of the prisoners. I mean,
Sure,
again, I
sure.
don't agree with it, but I,
Kidnapping
I, I
has an
understand
effect. I get it.
the
Right.
the thought process behind it. I mean,
Yes.
um,
Kidnapping is leverage. I get that.
yeah. I mean,
Torture is
you
not.
you you
Torture
you
is
bring up
leverage when you want information, right?
yeah, but I mean,
Hmm.
you bring up the Romans, right? And that was not an uncommon practice for the Romans, to request um hostages from even their allies to,
Right.
guarantee good behavior on their part. When I tell you to
Yeah.
show up for this battlefield, you better show the fuck up or your kid's gonna, you know.
Sure.
Um, but uh, you know, I think, the gist that I'm getting from, the handful of news stories that I've read is that, Netanyahu is basically taking the George Bush stance on this, and we don't negotiate with terrorists. So
Right. Well, they crossed the line though. Like I said, if they just broke in, pulled people out of their houses, kidnapped them, that's a different story. That to me is a tactical move, leverage. I don't agree with it, but you harm the people, torture the people, rape them, have it on TV, displaying it for everybody to see, you beheading children. And that's a step too far. That is no longer a tactical move. That is barbaric. And you don't get to negotiate at that point. You just get the head end of a missile. That's what you get.
yeah, and
You,
and
because you're not negotiating anymore. There's no room to
no,
negotiate.
and it, I feel like a broken record at this point. But again, if you go back to your history books and you look at this, um, you know, this um, this thought process
Hmm.
of, you know, um, dealing with uh, groups of people, the group punishment and the fear tactics. I mean, it was a uh, it, it 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 was a process that burnt Germany twice, in two world wars. It it burnt Japan. And just the whole um, boot heel approach, conquering through fear. It doesn't work. Um, not
Well,
in
even in your own house, like I said,
not in a
bring it
modern
in your
age. It
house.
doesn't.
Bring it in your house, dude. Do you treat your children like that? You know what I mean? Even spanking in the past. You know what I mean? Like there's kids that need to be spanked today, but there are better ways to discipline children than spanking. Like so we've evolved. You know what I mean? We've evolved because we went through these phases and learned from mistakes. I'm not saying that, back in the day people didn't think like this and it wasn't warranted back then because that's what they thought worked. But once they realized there was another way, people's minds started changing. I'm, you're the history guy, but I'm more of a psychology guy. And I even understand inherently we are as human beings, as creatures, we are inherently savages. It's just the ability to control it that separates us from the animals.
Yes.
So I understand these people, these savages, are probably just acting on human instinct and nature. But how is it that we've come this far and you cannot control your behaviors to the point where you're that angry and you go and do something like that? Like, I just don't get that. This one's running late, so get some final thoughts. Because even if I put this last headline on there, I've been putting headlines up, I never read them. But this is the one that really concerned me too. The intelligence failed to predict Hamas attack that was likely years in the works. They already said Iran helped them plan it for 2 years or 2 months. I don't know what it was.
Well, I mean, Iran helped them plan it. This is my surprise face.
Right, and it's because of this right here. You see this ex-State Department advisor debunks Biden admin excuse about $6 billion for Iran. So remember we did that prisoner exchange? I wish Nate was here because we did this on an episode about the prisoner exchange. And then
Mm-hmm.
we released $6 billion of their money. So there are literally people arguing, right? So take this for your logic, man. Just to show you how stupid people are. There are literally people arguing that, well, this 6 billion is only going toward humanitarian causes. So I mean,
Well,
like,
I mean, if you think that you have a foreign force occupying your land and you're going to buy a bunch of weapons to attack them to get them out, you might be able to justify that as a
well,
humanitarian effort.
right, but I mean, the point is like, let's say you want a new gun because your neighbor's pissing you off, but you don't have the money to buy a gun because you need to buy food. Well, here comes this company that says, "Hey, we'll buy your food." Well, guess what? You buy the gun with your money, the one you were buying the food with. How do these morons not understand that? You still gave them an extra 6 billion. Doesn't matter where that money's going to. You freed up money that was already buying food, so that now they can buy missiles and guns. Like, how are you that stupid to believe that, oh, but none of it went toward. No kidding. Because that went right to the food bank account and they took the food money and bought guns with it. Like,
I'm sorry,
how?
I just got really excited because I thought I got to go to the gun store after
Oh,
this.
I thought it was the food part. Anyways, why don't we go ahead and get off this one because nobody's going to watch it if we keep going too long. But I did enjoy this because this is a big deal, and I think I got something out of it, or at least I enjoyed it.
Yeah,
I don't
and
know if I got anything out of it, but
um,
um,
on, on a serious note, though,
mhm.
like my heart is with everybody over there because there is nothing there's nothing fun, there's nothing funny about death and destruction and people losing their lives and losing their homes and losing their livelihoods. So
No, even the people in Gaza. But see what they're not telling you, because they're calling it a prison, like Israel's keeping them in prison. But what they're not telling you is
well
Egypt.
they've
Egypt
had
is not even letting them in.
yeah, and
So it's not just Israel; it's Egypt not letting them in.
the Israelis have had them under a blockade for
Right. And guess
what,
why?
7 or 8 years?
Because they're probably barbarians. And you wouldn't let them in your house either.
No, no,
If
no,
your
no, no, no,
neighbor
no,
were
no, no, no,
barbarian,
no,
you
no,
would.
no, no. I'm not talking about letting them in. They're not letting supplies in to Gaza. Like they've got a blockade on their
From who?
shoreline.
Yeah, but they're not.
Anybody.
But they're not blockading Egypt. Egypt can get them stuff. Other countries out there can get them stuff.
Well,
but they're not.
Hang on a sec. Think about this from a diplomatic perspective, okay? If you're Egypt and you have a thin line between pissing off your uber militant Israelis or hustling officially supplying Gaza, no, you're going to put some stuff under the radar.
But Iran is supplying them. How is Iran getting supplies to them?
The same way that the drug mules get heroin into the United States.
So therefore, Iran is supplying them. So therefore, a blockade means nothing if Iran's willing to support them. But Iran's only supplying them so they can kill Israel. Yes. You see what I'm saying? So you can't tell me we're starving when you get all this money from Iran and you use it to buy guns and missiles.
This money from Iran. Maybe your handful of 1/10 of a percenters at the top are getting this money from Iran.
Well, okay, right, but that's enough for the revolt.
People down there
if America wasn't so rich, dude. If America wasn't so rich, we're just starting a whole new conversation. If America wasn't so rich, you do not think there would be people standing out in front of Pelosi's house begging for ice cream or at least breaking down walls to get ice cream? But America's so rich, even the poorest in our country have it good. So a $500 stimulus check excites them. If I was in that country and there was the corruption level, yes, I would give my life to feed my family. Because if I knew this guy, this oligarch was stealing all our money and we were starving, I'm not standing there just living through, that's just not in me. I would rather die fighting than just be poor forever because some rich guy's taking my money. Right now, you even see it in America. People are starting to get pissed off now because they're seeing that all these rich people are getting richer and we're getting poorer. It would be not wise for these rich people to make the poor poorer because the poor will be desperate. And a desperate man is a dangerous man, which is why these barbarians might have been. I don't know. I just don't know. It's complicated, but I think it's barbaric, and I think it needs to be condemned on all ends.
Yes.
So go ahead. Yes. You can have the last word, and we're going to get out of here.
I like Cheetos.
Awesome. What? I said the last word. Now you want to go another. Go ahead. What? But not the one.
Yeah. Not the puffy ones. The crunchy ones.
Okay. Got it. All right. Okay. So thank you again for showing up. Thank you all for tuning in. Thanks for enduring this long episode. I really appreciate it. We tried to keep them short, but this is almost like a double episode and probably needed it. So like, share, subscribe, all that cool stuff. And, like I hear all these YouTubers do, just send us all your money so we can keep doing this for you, even though you haven't sent us any money and we're still doing it for you. So I don't know what they're talking about. But anyway, until then, Godspeed.
And pull the pin.
Boom. There you go. Thanks for joining us here at Pull the Pin Already. We hope you had as much fun as we did. If you like what we do, go ahead and hit that like button and share this video with a friend. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell button so you don't miss out on any of our future episodes. But most importantly, leave a comment below. Let us know if you agree or disagree with our opinions. Hope to see you here next time on Pull the Pin Already.